Welcome to Pat's Cast, the unofficial Regina Pats podcast. We are a proud member of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
I'm Kevin.
And this is our episode for April 19th, 2020. Okay, everyone, thanks for listening in. Just the audio version today, not doing the video. Felt like we needed to do a bit of a resolution to this season, and so we brought Kevin back on. He's become our perennial season wrap-up guest, and so thanks, Kevin, for coming in. We're not doing in person, everyone. We are respecting the social isolation mandates and keeping the curve flat, so to speak. So let's get into it, boys. How's your last week been, last month? It feels like a long time since we had any hockey, but really it's only been about a month, I think, or a month and a bit. But certainly been dragging on. I don't know how you guys are handling all of this.
It's been too long.
Too long, yeah.
Way too long.
It was already going to be a long off season for us with, no playoffs or anything like that, and clearly this just extended it. I was looking back. Our last game was actually that Winnipeg home game. That was not a great game to end the season on, but didn't really have much to say in that. So I thought we would just try and do our best here to wrap up the season. Chris, why don't you just let what you thought about the season?
Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody saw the start was a really tough start, and that really kind of sunk them a bit for any kind of playoff drive or drive to playoff, races per se.
Yeah.
But it seemed, just like the season before, they kind of came along in the second half. We've seen some guys step up. I think maybe if the goaltending situation would have been a little more, figured out, or maybe a little more stable, that would have helped out a bit. But we weren't expecting too much. I was going to go back and listen to the preseason show to see what our exact thoughts were on the win totals, but we were all above 20. I know I was in the low 20s. I think Matt was in the mid 20s, and Kevin was high 20s, even 30.
I think I said 500.
You said about 500, yeah. So I mean,
500.
And if you take out that start, they were roughly about 500, right? So all in all, it wasn't a terrible season. It wasn't a great season, but we weren't expecting that. And this team's going to be a little older next year, and so it's going to be interesting how this season, how the guys progress this season and going into next season. What kind of next season we have? Who knows what we're going to have at this point? But so that's my thoughts. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree. There was some tough times. There were some good times, but all in all, because of the bad start, Paddock had to make some extra moves that he probably wished he didn't have to, and got a little younger, got a few younger, more talented type guys, and I think they're going to turn the corner. Well, I hope they're going to turn the corner anyways.
I think you're right, too. I think the expectations for next year have dramatically increased, not just with... Well, I think the first overall pick is a huge part of that, but I think this year maybe we're cautiously optimistic. I know I think I was around that 30 win mark for a goal, but after the slow start, honestly, like, this season almost felt like we were just waiting for it to be over and moving on to next year, and that's sad because I hate not like really enjoying the moment and stuff like that, but it felt that way for a long time, just sort of waiting for the deadline to come and the balls to drop and then this to happen and this to happen, and it was all just sort of waiting for this season to end and see how next year starts to play out, which is too bad. I think we did get to see some nice development of players leading into this next year, which is nice, but I mean, it's, to me, I was disappointed this season. I think, Kevin, I remember you saying in our mid-season episode that there was something wrong and something off, and it wasn't always that enjoyable being at the rink, and there was some nights where it really kind of wasn't. And even though they were trying hard, I don't know, it's not a ton of fun with some of the losses racking up like they were. I don't know, but that being said, yeah, maybe now I'm getting a little too excited about next season too, and getting ahead of myself. But I really feel this team should take a step next year to at least be in the playoffs. There's nothing like playoff hockey, and granted, we've only been out of it for a couple of years, but I really miss it, and I think it's important for the team. And I don't know what you're feeling. I maybe getting a bit ahead, but I just felt like talking about this season, we're always talking about next season, so I don't know if you want to give me your thoughts about next year a little bit, Chris. Any feelings? Not predictions maybe per se, but just your thoughts.
Yeah, I touched on there a little bit. You know, we've got all these, you know, youngish forwards. Like and they're going to be another year older next year. We're going to be bringing in some, obviously, a high-end talent in Bedard. That can only help the team. You know, his skill level appears to be good enough where he can contribute as a 15-year-old, which will be exciting to see for everybody. Bring some excitement back into the building. And then, yeah, the defense, you know, the core is decent. There's lots of young guys knocking on the door for next year, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of decisions are made there. And then the big one is in net. Like, what are we going to do in net? You know, we always say we trust in Paddock, and maybe he has done many good moves, but maybe the goaltending situation is maybe one he'd like to have back, I think, this year. So, you know, do you keep Buskys at 20? He came along pretty decent at the end of the year, but is he good enough to be a 20-year-old goaltender in this league? I don't know. Is Welke ready to take full-time duties? I don't know either, because he didn't get a good run here at the end. I'm sure he would have got the bulk of the minutes, I think, from when he came up after the AAA season was over. But, yeah, so it's going to be, you know, I think there's going to be a little more excitement. And like you said, it's not going to be like a waiting year for the next year. This is, you know, the year that we want to see some definite progress with this team. Kevin?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I can't disagree with anything you said. They definitely need to upgrade goaltending. An .876 save percentage from a 19-year-old starting goalie just doesn't cut it.
Yeah. How does he go about doing that?
I don't know. There's you look around the league, and if Paddock is looking around for a goalie, there's some teams that might be looking to part with a goalie or two. You never know. There's a few teams that have 18 and 19-year-olds. The 18-year-olds are already starting over the 19s. They could fit.
Yeah.
Couldn't get worse than what we have.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess it all depends on the price.
Yeah, and we know Paddock likes to make some moves. Like, he's got no qualms about making a trade or two.
Definitely. And if we're seeing that we're kind of looking towards next year, we're going to be losing we have lost 3 of our top 4 scorers from this year. So that's going to hurt.
Yeah, you're right. That's too bad. Yeah. It would be interesting to see what happens with goaltender situation. We've often said that Paddock, in Paddock we trust, and you know this is on his radar and something he's going to seriously work on over the off season here. Yeah, well, let's talk about this year's team though. We talked about this last episode, I think, that we just didn't get that nice wrap up, the send off with the 20-year-olds and the last home game where they do the team awards. Now they did do this on just Instagram and Twitter. They started releasing the team award winners. Let's start off with the Nick Pappas Rookie of the Year. Now this went to, actually, Chris and I both really liked this player. We picked him for our fan favorite Drew Englot. I don't know if there's anyone else that could have maybe made a good case for this. Drew seemed to be the front runner for me. Anyone else stand out to you guys?
I think Englot was a good choice. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think to me he was clearly the first choice.
Yeah, Zach Smith. Yeah, I thought he played fairly well as well. I wasn't, I didn't mind his game at all. Like you said before, we both enjoyed Englot's game as a whole, I think. And then, even Jake Johnson, obviously the numbers aren't there for points wise, but I don't think he's going to be that for a couple more years. But he was just solid on the back end all season. Like, you didn't see him making very many mistakes. He was always just making the safe play. He wasn't making a fancy play or anything. I thought he was just solid on the back end for a 16-year-old D-man in this league. And he got some decent minutes, I think, this year. And then you look at Carrier, he came in, he looked decent. And then Stanek, he's got some talent, and it's going to take a year or two for him to find that yet. And, so that's my thoughts on kind of all the rookies.
Good. Player of the year goes to Robbie Holmes, 19 goals, 29 assists. Sad story, really, him finishing off his Pats career without any sort of proper send-off. He was, I guess it depends what you think of the player of the year. I just think his heart and his grit just really carried this team, and even from what we can tell on the ice, and we didn't really have a lot of dressing room or locker room sort of impression of him, but I think he was such a leader on that team that I think this award is well deserved. You could always look at a captain as to be getting it, but I don't have any issues with this. Anyone else that could have got it in your mind?
I don't think so. Either him or Pratt, I would have been totally fine with either. There, Kevin.
I thought Holmes was a good choice. Holmes seemed to be the most consistent player out of the whole group. Pratt had good games, had some not so good games, but Holmes seemed to be always there doing his thing. So I think he was a good choice.
Yeah, he seemed to stand up for players and have a lot of guys' backs, the younger guys, and it's just too bad he ended his season on a suspension. But c'est la vie.
Yeah, it's too bad. Kevin, did you have any thoughts on Rookie of the Year? I don't know if you had any other.
Oh, Englot was perfect. Smith was good, but he's a year older. But I think Englot, if he would have played the whole season, if he wouldn't have missed the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of the season, he would have been a lot further along, I think, too. So he was a good choice.
Now, Kevin, maybe you can help why these awards are named after these people they are. I don't know if you know the histories behind them, but the Charles Johnson top D-man goes to Riker Evans. I'm really happy with that pick. We talked about him throughout the season. I was really happy to see he stayed healthy the whole year. He was showing that durability. Last year's was such a kind of a freak accident to break your leg in the way he did, but to see him play a large majority of this season, started getting some goals, and he how many 7 goals, 24 assists, like that was pretty impressive, and he stood out to us. To see him get picked was awesome. An argument could have been made for Zach Whitting for defenseman, but I'm happy with this one too.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. Kevin?
I'm glad they picked him. He was the best defenseman on the Pats.
Yeah,
I thought it.
And who's Charles Johnson?
Charles Johnson is the dad of a former statistician, a guy that we used to work for the Pats in the 60s and 70s. Okay. And I guess they donated the trophy. I'm not exactly sure why, but
okay,
that's who it is.
Now this one, so the unsung hero, the Rick Rippon Award to Nikita Sedov. I don't know, Chris. Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. I don't know. I think people know that our thoughts on his game this year maybe didn't progress as much as we'd hoped.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe leveled off this season. We thought maybe we'd have a better season than he did. But I don't know. Unsung hero. That's one of those.
But see, that's where I think a Smith would fit in really well there, or Johnson, right? Doesn't get his name on the score sheet a lot, but like
deserves some recognition.
Yeah, that's where I think maybe Johnson would have been a good fit for this award personally.
They seem to go with an older player for the unsung hero and stuff. So I'm kind of not surprised, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
let's. All he can do is improve for next year. Let's see how next year. Looking for improvement next year with Sedov. Next up, the Hugh Bishop Sportsmanlike Award to Zach Whiting, 18 PIMs. So that's pretty good for defensemen. Usually can always get tangled up in a holding or something like that, right? And he tied for 12th in the WHL in D-men with 47 points. To me, he was one of the better pickups this year. Just the leadership that he brought to bring someone in like that, and and even when you interviewed him, Chris, he just seemed like a really intelligent, smart man, and I think he brought a lot to the team. And to see he only had 18 PIMs, that's fairly impressive.
Yeah, that is actually. I was just looking at Pratt's because he won it last year, but
right.
He racked up 43 PIMs this year, so quite a bit.
Yeah, I think he got a few on that U.S. road trip he picked up. So.
Yeah, I think there might have been a couple of fights he had this year. So
yeah.
But yeah, like you said, he was a really good interview actually, and I didn't interview him a ton this year. I kind of maybe my one regret this season because he was very well spoken. He always had something good to say. He was always smiling. Like he was actually the last interview of the season. After that Winnipeg game, I want to talk to him about the future and stuff. And so he ended up being the last interview, but he was a really good interview every time I did talk to him. So that's a good pick there. Kevin?
Yeah, 18 penalty minutes. Hey. Yeah, you can't complain there. 18 penalty minutes for a sportsman player. No problem there.
Yeah,
exactly.
And the Mike Cartouche Community Service Award went to Kyle Walker. He had 20 community appearances this year at schools, and he also did some work with the Canadian Mental Health Association. Again, he seems like a good leader on the team. Speaking of his game, though, he was one of those guys we were really hoping might be maybe not win the Sportsmanlike Award, just be a little bit more physical. I'm hoping to see that maybe blossom a bit next year. Not like a dirty player, but just a guy that can maybe just be that presence on the blue line, a little bit more physical.
More aggressive?
Sure, aggressive, but not in a dirty way, but yeah. It's still part of the game, and I think he's the guy that could step into that role. That doesn't really have much to do with what his award here, but awesome that these guys are part of the community. I remember one time when I was in elementary school and they came to our school and I lost my shit. Like these guys were such a. I don't know. I didn't really. When you're a kid, you don't realize they're just like
kids as well.
Yeah, exactly. And now that you read back when Kevin posts those articles and you're reading stuff, you're like, man, they were just kids at the time.
Yeah, I remember one time at the outdoor rink, it was Garth Murray and Matt Hambauer came out, and we're just like, oh my god, it's Pats. Well, they're only like a year older than I am, right? But you go to the games and you look up to them and all that, and it's just like, you put them on a pedestal, right? But now that we're older, it's a totally different scenario, right?
I was just gonna say, like when I was little, the Pats were superheroes. I remember meeting Gibson when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and he was basically like a god. It's crazy.
It is. I know. Now, I mean, we're obviously way older than them, and I think the last player now, like next year will be the first year that all players are born in the year 2000 and later, and it's just crazy to think. And I remember them just seeing that one time they were in the mall signing autographs, and it's just wild. Actually, I'd kept pucks from when my dad and I used to go. I kept the pucks, like the warm-up puck, and I would cut the logo out of the program and write the date. And I think I had one from like 1995 and warm-up puck versus Lethbridge. It was like it's just a plain beat-up warm-up puck, but I loved that thing and kept it. I still have it, so it was in a box somewhere.
Nice.
But yeah, I hope they realize, and I think they must, because I'm sure they felt the same way when they came to their schools and whatnot, and they can really, really kind of be something in some kid's life that maybe they don't really expect. But yeah, just showing up and signing some autographs and stuff like that can be pretty memorable for them.
Most definitely.
So the Bill Hickey most popular player goes to Robbie Holmes. I think I would have actually expected. I don't know. We both of you and I picked Drew Englot. Not that I was expecting him to win the most popular, but we thought maybe Dubinsky would win, or maybe Austin Pratt just because he's the captain. But so this is voted on by the fans, I believe. Did it still go that way? Like that's yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they really finalized it or not. So who did you vote for, Kevin?
I voted for Holmes, actually.
Okay.
I was surprised he won. I thought it would have been Dubinsky, honestly.
Yeah. I think if Dubinsky had some more points, maybe, or played maybe up in the first couple lines more often, maybe we would have seen that, and he got more ice time. But I'm not terribly surprised with Holmes. I thought it would have been Dubinsky as well. The Scholastic Player of the Year, Jacob Brook, with his 92.5 average, and he wasn't taking like cupcake courses either. He had some pretty high level courses there. I think there were 30 levels and stuff like that. So really impressive there. He actually was the Eastern Conference representative for the Scholastic Player of the Year. I think if I read correctly, he lost out to Dustin Wolf. I don't know if I saw that right. But regardless, I mean, for him to be able to do that, maybe he had a bit of time to spend out his studies when he was injured. But either way, it's really good for him. I don't know. When I was in high school, I'm not sure I could have done too well with independent study and stuff that they have to do. So really good for him. Logan Nyhoff was the winner last year, I believe, so he'll have to step up his game.
And I don't think his marks were too bad either. Like, he had some pretty high marks.
They were pretty good. I think he won a monthly one. He won. I remember he had some good ones, good marks.
Yeah, I don't know if they finalized the final awards. Have they yet, or just the conference awards?
I don't know. Maybe he's just going against Dustin Wolf. I'd have to look at that tweet again.
Yeah, I was just scrolling through here because but I think it's just the finalists. I don't think they finalized it yet. Quite yet.
Okay. And so the last Torchy Shell top scorer goes to Austin Pratt, 57 points, 20 goals, and then I guess that'd be 37 assists. Not a huge amount of points for someone to win the top scorer, but I think that's just indicative of the team this year. 57 points, but a long time. Regina Pat getting an award in his last year.
He won last year with 51 points. So.
Oh, did he? Well, there you go. Okay. I had here 317 career games for Austin Pratt. So.
Okay, so before you continue there, we were talking about him being the Iron Man.
Yes.
few episodes. Okay, so I looked it up, and we didn't really have an episode. So in 17-18, he played the final 4 games of the regular season. And then, so he was scratched in the 5th last game. And then 18-19, he played every game, 68.
Yeah.
And then he played every game this season, 63.
Okay.
So that's 135 straight.
That's pretty good. That's really good.
Regular season games.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And that'd be all with the Pats.
Okay, then the last, I don't know if it's really an award, but the top stars throughout the year. Robbie Holmes was the first, received the most points. So I think it's like 3 points for first, second, and so forth. So Robbie Holmes, followed by Pratt, and then maybe kind of a surprise finish was Buskey, who was the third star.
Yeah, it is maybe a little surprising, but
I think it's just
good for him,
they
though.
get a point for every star they get in the game, and
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
3-2-1 kind of thing. Yeah.
okay, so that wraps up awards. Some other things to recognize, though, is what does CSS stand for? Central Scouting
Services.
Riker Evans was 178th skater ranked. Again, 7 goals, 24 assists in 63 games. Awesome for him to get that recognition too, in a bit of a higher level than just us sitting around talking about him, of course. So really good for Riker. Happy to see that. Kind of nice to see that our recognition is congruent with maybe some smarter people than us, but that's awesome to hear. I also saw Tyus Mlanek at 24 and Daniel Gushin at 41. Chris, interestingly enough, you were saying Brooke had actually fell off this list this year. Not terribly surprising, I guess, with his injuries, but it's too bad, but hopefully he can get back on. I don't know if he made enough impression last year to keep on someone's mind, possibly in a draft or not, but
Yeah, I don't think that he or Evans will get drafted. They're like what was the ranking again? Sorry,
178.
So that's 178th of the North American skaters.
Yeah.
So you got to factor in the Europeans yet. So he's pretty well down there. So it's highly unlikely that he's going to get drafted, or Brooke. But you never know. They both have a strong season next year. They could get drafted next year. You never know, right?
Okay, well, anything else you want to say about this year? Move on to next year. Talk about next year.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good for this past season. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm good. Move on to next year.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sure. Well, let's talk about next year. Let's talk about not only the Pats, but the league in itself. First of all, what's your feelings about a season and it starting on time next year? What's your kind of gut feeling?
I don't think it's going to start on time. Honestly, I think this is a hockey podcast. I don't really want to get into the medical things, especially when we have no idea. But you just look at the optics, and the U.S. is really struggling with this still. And I don't see, unless it clears up sooner rather than later, I don't see much cross-border traffic happening that's not essential. And hockey's clearly not essential. So it's, I don't know. It's going to be tough because I don't think Canada really wants to allow the Americans in, and you don't want to do that cross mixing and all that stuff. So, and I just read a tweet today that said the Q is already in talks about not starting until 2021, in the new year.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that is definitely.
I don't even know if we haven't had ours yet, our peak, so we're still going to be going through some. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's a league that can survive without fans and ticket sales. So the idea of playing without fans and that is, I don't think that's an option.
No, definitely not.
I don't think. Well, I've had some conversations with some people about these smaller market teams, the Prince Albert, Swift Current, for instance. This is not good for their franchise and financial health at all. Swift Current didn't really they weren't going to have a playoff run, but PA would have. They would have made some good money this season, the end of the year, with ticket sales in the playoffs. Sure, it hurt their financial, and you think of like a Swift Current. If they don't, well, maybe not playing would be the best thing for them. They just put everything on hold, and they don't pay anyone anything. I don't know.
Yeah, the playoffs shouldn't be a determining factor. I mean, because you can't rely on playoff revenue because you're not guaranteed playoff revenue. So if you're banking your business on playoff revenue, then you've got a problem, I think.
I don't know if they're banking on playoff revenue, but it definitely helps.
Oh, no question about it.
You get an extra 2 dates, you get an extra 6 dates.
That
helps. That helps. It's over and above. So.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you need the playoff revenue to keep your business going, then that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's definitely going to hurt these smaller markets and the owners maybe that aren't as deep pocketed, these community-owned teams, stuff like that.
And if it's true that we're not going to start potentially until January or whenever, that could really, really, really hurt teams. Worse than the playoff revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're losing sponsorship money, like everything, right?
It's that sponsorship money, definitely, because, obviously your costs are down. So, like your travel and all that stuff with running the team is going to be lessened, but your sponsorship money is going to be way less, right? And so I was reading about the BCHL, so Junior A in BC. Those Junior A teams rely on these spring camps because they charge money for them, anywhere from $150 to $200 per player to come out and try out. So they're bringing in anywhere from 15 up to upwards of $15,000 per team that these teams bring in that spring camp, and those are essential for those teams. So there could be teams folding or pausing, taking a leave of absence for a year or two for this upcoming season. If it's happening in full, it's going to be for those, this kind of maybe ties into the WHL, but the Junior A is going to be hit hard, real hard this season, I think.
I don't know where they go from here. Like, would a half a season? Well, I mean, they'll do what they can, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe a Swift Current or a PA, they have to take a leave of absence for the year. I don't know what do you do, but and then they get back into it the next full season. Well, I don't know.
Hey, Kevin, has there ever been a shortened season?
Not in the Western Hockey League, no.
No. Yeah.
There's never been a Memorial Cup either, so.
No, there hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's
the first one.
That's pretty wild. Even through the World Wars and stuff, we haven't had that in the Spanish. Well, yeah.
If a team does take a leave of absence, like say a PA or a Swift Current or somebody who takes a leave of absence, what happens to their players?
I know. I have no idea. That's what I was just thinking, right? Like,
what happens to their coaching staffs? What happens to all their staff? What do they do?
I don't know.
A 50-player list. What happens to them? Are they just going to get dispersed? Right?
Or maybe, if finances are concerned, they don't do the big, long road trips, right? The big U.S. road trip or Western BC road trip to try and lessen some of that burden. I don't know. Maybe they do that for a season.
It's unprecedented territory.
Well, everything is right now. I mean, it's all. Everything we're talking about, like no Memorial Cup, no playoffs, nothing, no half a season possibly. Like, it's all ass backwards right now.
At least we're not making these decisions, right?
Yeah, I know. We're just... but, I worry too, like, it's not just... We're talking about sponsorship. Like, it's businesses really suffering too right now, so that sponsorship money might not even be as flowing as teams need it to be either, right? Like that might be one of the first things you start looking at removing is sponsoring a hockey team or advertising in it when your books are tight.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But
anyways,
let's not worry about all this. Let's. I don't know. You know, we'll see. I think we'll see over the next month or so maybe what starts rolling out in terms of from the government allowing people to do. We're in what, April, May, June, July. Yeah, I don't know. I actually maybe am cautiously optimistic. I think we will have. I don't know if regular season starts right on time, but I don't think it'll be the new year. I think it's closer to maybe mid-October.
Okay.
That's going to be my guess.
All right. Sounds good.
I'm not even trying to guess because I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Everything gets pushed back a month, gets pushed back another month, so...
Yeah, exactly, right. There's no point in guessing, really. It's just wait and see.
And I'm tired of watching e-hockey or whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
Today there was e-racing, like IndyCar racing. I was like, is this real? I was like, no, wait. It was really good quality. I was like, well, no, it wasn't real.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that today just to see what it's about, but I haven't watched
it just doesn't
live TV.
Yeah, anyone who thinks it will it's not going to happen.
No.
What hasn't got pushed back though is the draft. They're still going ahead with that on Wednesday, I believe, right?
It got moved up.
Oh, did it get moved up? Okay.
Yeah, it was in May. Scheduled for May.
Yeah, you're right. So, I mean, there's been lots of talk, obviously, about the first round, Connor Bedard. What about past that, though? Is there? I think we did ask. Didn't you ask Paddock last year whether it was they pick on need or strategy, or they just really pick the best player that there is?
I think, yeah, more best player. You know, most potential player.
It's so hard. It's not like the NFL where you're picking for a particular need, and this guy is pretty much expected to start the next season, right? There's so much that. First of all, the WHL picks too early in my
14-year-old kids.
Yeah. How do you build a team based on that? Like, you're not picking needs based on a 14-year-old and filling that need. I think you're just picking the best player.
It's all about the potential.
Yeah,
right. You're relying on your scouts and what they see and Kevin potential.
I mean, like, they do have lots of D signed. Maybe they'll look at forwards here in the higher or the first few rounds. You know, you look at the depth chart and you got 4 17-year-olds signed. You got 2 more 16-year-olds signed on the blue line, right? So maybe they'll look for some forwards earlier in the draft and maybe pick up some more D at the end of the draft. Yeah, obviously you're still going to go with the best player, and if you have an abundance of one, well, then that's where the trades come in, right? You have too many forwards or you have too many D, well, you just move somebody and bring in something that you do need, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, so who knows if there's going to be, there's finally a trade happened today, trade window's open, maybe there'll be some movement before, like we were talking about the goaltending situation, maybe something will happen there.
Yeah.
But they're going to take the best player. And this draft seems pretty deep. I mean, looks like we can get another solid player in the second round as well, with having a high second round pick.
Yeah.
So, and I know Paddock has mentioned that he's working on Wook and Whitehead. He's really working on those guys.
Right.
And of course Gushin as well. He would be huge if he came here, but I'm not holding my breath on that.
And how do the American kids fit in? The Mateo Michaels and Brogan Young are.
Yeah.
How does that affect? How does it affect the this draft?
I don't know if it affects much because those guys are on their own list, so they don't take up spot on the 50-man. I know,
But as for need, though, like
yeah, I mean, you get one forward and one D, right?
Oh.
So, I mean, Brogan, I think just from I seen an interview on a local, not an interview, but more of an story on a local station. You know, he's out of Washington, so he knows about the WHL. I think he's interested in the WHL from what I took from that TV kind of article. So I think there's a pretty good chance we can sign him. Mateo Michaels, who knows, right? This kid's out of Dallas. I mean, there's lots of teams pick some Dallas kids. It's you never know with these American guys, right? It's a shot in the dark. But I think that Brogan Young, if the Pats are that interested in him, I think there's a good chance that we can sign him. But then again, there's another D-man, so it's the draft is the draft, and we leave that to them, and we'll figure it out after, I guess, right?
Absolutely. We'll let them handle that. We'll sit in the seats. We'll make our comments.
Yeah,
and,
I know we just did a mock draft on Dub Network, just
Yeah.
a first round draft. I was crazy busy, so I could have picked up some other teams and did some research into some of these guys, into the team and who the team should pick, but I didn't have time, so I made the big call of picking Bedard number one overall. So
yeah.
nobody dangled any trade bait in front of me, so I just had to move on with my pick.
Yeah, so that being said, it's been nice to think about the future. I mean, the present isn't a lot of great news right now, but we will get back to normalcy at some point here, and I think we all agree the Pats have maybe a bit of a brighter future coming here. Obviously with the first overall pick in the draft, but even the players we have, we're hoping for some improvement here. We have some good building blocks that took some steps this year. I think a fairly good leadership group going into next year too. I think we all agree that goaltending situation is a bit of a concern, but no, I haven't been this excited for going into the next year for a while, so that's good. I don't know, any last thoughts you wanna say, Chris?
I don't think so. I think yeah. When this season does come around, I think it will maybe a little more exciting than this past season. Like I said, we were kind of just treading water last year, and this season maybe is one to look forward to, and it clearly is going to be now. Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be a lot of tension on this team too with having Bedard, so maybe there's a little added pressure as well to win. But
I was just thinking, I was trying to think back to when we had a successful team, and that year, the Memorial Cup year, was just ugh. So when you're talking about pressure, I hope it's not like that. I don't think it is. But you're right, there'll be some expectations this year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they got there. Once Wednesday happens, everything's going to start getting a little more pressure filled, way more attention on the team. It'll be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it actually. So hey.
Yeah, it'll be good. There'll be a lot of chatter about the team, right? Where there hasn't been the last couple of years. After they peaked those two past 2 seasons there, and then these last two have been in the down part of the cycle. So it'll be good for the team. So, Kevin, you found some little tidbit today on possible coaching change. What did you find out?
Well, on Rod Peterson's blog, he had his his weekend random 25 thoughts, or whatever they call it, and he mentions that there's a rumor going around that Pat's assistant coach Brad Haroff will take over at Estevan. So that'd be interesting. And Estevan, he says the former coach in Estevan could join the Pats, Chris Lugood. So
yeah, that was an interesting move. The Bruins relieving him, or whatever they called it, but he's done real well. He ran a great program in Pilot Butte with the Junior B Storm, they were consistently in the league final. Then he moved to Estevan. They haven't gone to the league final or anything, but he's had a consistently good team. And them hosting the Centennial Cup in 2022 and then them making this move was kind of out of left field for a lot of people. And yeah, I think he's well regarded around the coaching circle. And obviously, if somebody thinks that he can make the jump to the WHL, well, then that's obviously the next move for him. So see what happens. I mean, that's quite the tidbit.
Okay, Kevin, anything else you want to say?
No, just looking forward to getting everything over with and getting to whatever we want to call normal.
Yes. Okay, well, right on. Thanks for joining us on this special wrap-up episode. Thanks, Chris. And I guess we'll see you guys on the other side. We hope to do a draft review episode with our pals over there at Draft Geek. Again, that's one of our more popular episodes throughout the year, so we'll definitely be working on that again once this draft comes and goes. And we hope to be back next year, right, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. We'll be back next year.
Might be in a different energy level, but we will definitely be back next year with couldn't miss it now with all the excitement coming. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again, Kevin, for coming on. Appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.